All right. Thank you all for coming. For anybody that doesn't know me, I'm Chris Wenzel, the current president of the LIAPG, and I'd like to welcome everyone here. We've been doing these monthly webinars for 2021, and they've been going really well. We've got had a great turnout, and we've had some really excellent varied content. And I hope you find tonight's presentation as exciting and interesting as I expect it to be, as well as all the others have been. A little business first. So we'll get right to that, get that out of the way. And first off, we'd like to thank our 2021 corporate sponsors. And at the diamond level, we have Cascade Environmental Drilling and PW Grosser Environmental Engineering Solutions. Thank you so much. At the topaz level, Alpha Analytical, EnviroTrack, ERM Consulting and Engineering, Island Pump and Tank Corp, Regenesis, VHB Engineers, Scientists, Planners, and Designers, and York Analytical Laboratories. We sincerely appreciate the corporate sponsorship. Your dollars go towards helping this organization keep moving forward with our website, with insurance, and a few other things that are necessary to keep a corporation like ours going. We're not for profit. That means we have to file taxes and tax reports and things like that. So, it's a really great thing. And anybody that's not familiar with any of these entities, if you go to the LIAPG website, the sponsors are listed there in a scrolling banner, and you can click on any one of the names and it will take you directly to the sponsor's website, and you can check them out and find out more about them there. So some upcoming event information. We've got quite a good docket here. As I mentioned, we've been doing these monthly webinars throughout the year, and it's gone quite well. They're usually the third Thursday of each month, and we are still looking for speakers for the October date as well as the December date. And I make this appeal every meeting. I'm confident that there's folks on this call right now that you probably have a presentation you've already done that would be suitable, geologic type material that would really like to have you. So please, if you have any interest in all and want to support what we're doing here, get in touch with us, and we'll make it happen. In November, we've got an interesting presentation done by Katie Jackson of the National Park Service and Fire Island National Seashore. And it's a presentation on the wilderness breach on Fire Island that occurred just west of Smiths Point Beach during her Superstorm Sandy. And that'll be followed by the following Saturday, the Saturday after, a field trip we put together to go and visit the breach. And this is a walk from the Smiths Point parking lot, mostly on a boardwalk. It's about 1.8 miles to the breach, but we're hoping we're going to have a nice day, and it coincides with a low tide, so that the breach and the shoaling that occurs around it should be very evident and pretty neato to look at. This was a big event, and it has changed, a lot of things in Great South Bay with the additional water flushing in and out of there. So if you're interested, check it out. Watch for the announcements. They'll be blasted out in emails. The board of the LIAPG is an open board. It means that we welcome anyone, and we have been, during the past year and a half, we've been doing our meetings online, but we meet every Monday, the first of the month. And the next one's on October 4th. Anybody that's interested in what we do, just get in touch with us and we'll connect you with a Zoom link and you can participate, especially if you're interested in getting more involved. We'd love to have you. Hold on here, come on. Okay, some upcoming event information about our sister organizations in the region. And the first is the New York State Council of Professional Geologists. Most of you know that they were instrumental in spearheading the efforts over a 20+ year period to get licensure for professional geologists approved in the state of New York, which did occur. And the next step in that process is to work with the state education department to establish programs for continuing education credits, just as professional engineers and land surveyors are required to, and a lot of other licensed professions. So recently, as within the last week, the state education department has approved the New York State Council to be the primary group that approved providers of continuing education activities like webinars and classes and things like that. That means that basically they're going to screen prospective organizations and particular courses and webinars and presentations and approve them that they qualify for participants to get continuing education credits. So you'll be hearing more about that. The other thing that the council has going on, they did this last year, was they commissioned a batch of beer as a fundraising activity made by Lithology Brewing in Farmingdale, New York, here on the island. And basically Lithology brewed the beer. The council developed a label, and it was sold for fundraising purposes. This year, it's intended to be available for the holidays. The beer is going to be called Pleistocene Pilsner, best served cold. There is a ongoing effort to a contest to come up with the right label for it, but you can check out the council's website, as well as the LIAPG will be sharing information, because we are, as a sister organization, we also have board members that sit on the council's board. So we're organized across the state with some of the other organizations that are listed here. So Buffalo Association of Professional Geologists, they didn't have any events necessarily planned on their website, but they did have an announcement for October 2nd for the Erie County Earth Science Day, which is being held at Penn-Dixie Fossil Park and Nature Preserve, which is up in that region of the state. If you're interested, more information is available on their website. You can easily look them up based on their acronym initials. Central New York, they do monthly Zoom presentations like we have. 20th of October, they have a speaker, Karen Harp from Colgate University, speaking. The topic wasn't listed, but I'm sure it'll be a good topic. And if you're interested, you can check it out. These Zoom presentations are easy to access. You can do it from home. Hudson Mohawk Professional Geologists, the 13th of October, they're having their joint meeting with the New York State Geological Survey and the New York State Council. The New York State Museum is in Albany, and if you've never been there, it's a really cool place and certainly worth checking out. The meetings usually have some presentations made. There's usually a cocktail hour and networking. So you can check that out. And then the American Institute of Professional Geologists, AIPG, the Northeastern section has got their fall meeting. It's going to be at a venue called Growler and Gill in Nanuet. And there'll be a presentation on climate change by Dr. Braddock Lindsley from Lamont Doherty. That's on the 20th, and then on the 21st, there'll be a drone short course. It's a webinar they're doing online. Don't know much more details about it, but you can go to their websites and look for more if it sounds interesting to you. A few more, and then we'll be finished. Stony Brook University. Oops. Come on. Stony Brook University has geology open nights that were face-to-face back before COVID, but now they're also online. Tomorrow night, there's one on the Lunar Reconnaissance Orbiter that's been spinning around the moon for quite some time, doing a lot of high resolution surveys. And the presentation is really focused on, the geologic findings, which are, all too important for planning robotic and human missions, as the moon ends up being a really neat place to go. So you can check that out. All you do have to do is to go to the, Google SUNY Stony Brook Geology Open Nights, and there's a simple registration you can do, and you'll get a link to it. On the 22nd of October, they have another one on earthquakes, ever-changing Earth and earthquake triggers. That sounds like a good one too. So again, check it out. Pennsylvania Council of Professional Geologists, they have a very strong program where they have at least 1 or 2 meetings every month. November, they've got geology and geomorphology of the Youghiogheny River and Laurel Highlands. There's one in the early December, looks like a hard rocker on ultramafics in southeastern PA. And then there's a course they're putting on in March of next year. I think it's a all-day course, I believe, last time I looked. It's a pay, it's a pay course, but for folks that want to get a good background in, hydrostructural geology and hydrogeology, that might be a good one to check out. The ASBOG exam dates that are posted here, the next one is in March and October with the application deadlines. The deadline for the March battery of exams is fast approaching in middle of November. So if that's something interesting to you, check it out. And with that, we'll go on to our main event, which is going to be presented by Dennis Askins, formerly of the New York City Department of Design and Construction, and we are truly, truly pleased to have him here. His talk tonight is on the role of geology in planning, design, and construction throughout New York City. And I think you're going to find this really, really cool. If you haven't seen Dennis speak before, he has a wealth of information that is unparalleled by many. So with this, I'm going to stop sharing. And Dennis, we're going to get you sharing. Let's see, you're muted still, Dennis, so we can't hear you yet. Nope, still can't hear you. We have no audio from you, Dennis.
Chris, do you have the power to?
Okay, you hear me now?
Now
Yes,
we
we
hear
hear
you, yeah.
Okay. I'll go back to the screen.
Okay, now all we gotta do is get you sharing and we're gonna be in business here.
Where's my that I had before? You hear me?
We hear you just fine.
All right,
You need to go back to the share screen function.
Okay, share screen.
Here you come.
Okay,
All right. Yep. You're sharing.
Okay. Okay.
We see
You'll
you.
see it.
Awesome.
All right. Tell me when to start.
Take it away. It's all yours.
Okay. Let me just make sure I'm able to move the slides.
And one thing we've asked, if everybody can hold off any questions until the end of the
Yeah,
presentation.
hold off on any questions. The first slide, as you can see, is a satellite imagery of New York City. You can actually see a lot of geologic features just looking at the satellite imagery. And we'll go on from that. Using that is a good thing if you have those maps. The presentation, I'm dedicating the presentation today for Barry Schwartz and Paula Casey, who passed away last year. They worked for DDC as geologists, and they were good friends and colleagues of mine for almost 30 years. Also, it happens to be 20 years ago, I was working at Ground Zero on September 23rd, 2001. And as you can see, I wrote down about what my role was at Ground Zero and what I did. And you see a picture of Warren Boyd, one of the surveys. I did both surveying, land surveying, and geology for Ground Zero, collecting all the data that they needed in the beginning for Ground Zero. This is shows you all the subsurface utilities that are found underneath New York City. And it gives you, New York, of course, has about 304 square miles. And you have thousands of miles of water mains, sewers, electrical lines, gas mains, buried trolley tracks, and a host of other things that are in the street. And these can show a lot of interference when you're doing any type of planning, design, and construction of the city. Here's a profile of what's below the New York City. And as you can see, it goes down to almost 800 feet for the water tunnel. This is my abstract. I'm not going to read through it, but I'm going to follow it the same way I wrote it. So the presentation will follow the abstract. Here's a geologic map from American Museum of Natural History. Here's a slide showing the New York City tectonic settings. You can see the relationship of New York City bedrock to the tectonic setting. Here's a stratigraphic and structural relationship in New York City. Another geologic map of the metropolitan area is opening up Pangea and showing what happened during the Triassic to Jurassic, which actually this is found in Staten Island, and I don't think you see it in the other parts of New York. Here's another picture of the Newark Basin. Here's Staten Island, showing you a geologic map. And the Ordovician serpentinite, which is an abducted slices that came up from the subduction zone. Here's another map of Staten Island. Here's another map of the bedrock geology of Staten Island. Here's the history of the province of the New York City region. Is a physiographic diagram of major geological provinces. Shallow bedrock from the thickness of the overburden. I worked with Alex Posner and Brett Miller from DDC, and we actually gave the data to USGS with Fred's thumb, and they produced this map. Very interesting to see that bedrock actually dips towards the southeast. The red is actually only around 25 feet, which is shallow for bedrock in those areas. Is Baskerville map in the Bronx, geologic map that can be used when you're doing any type of investigation. Here's the oldest metamorphic bedrock is 1.1 billion. the Fordham Gneiss. And here's the youngest sedimentary bedrock, 65 million years old, that came from DEP Water Tunnel 20B shaft site back in 1991. We found fossil plants in it for the probably the Raritan that was lithified. Possible thing was that the tsunami that came up through the Atlantic actually wiped out everything along the coastline, and that water stayed there and lithified about 10 feet of unconsolidated soil. So now you have it's about 125 feet below the surface. They hit that sandstone, siltstone layer, which is about 10 feet thick. I don't know if there's other areas beside Bushwick where you can find this, but I'm sure there is. Unconsolidated soil cover from 1989 map. Lower Hudson from USGS is another one. They must have updated the map, the same thing. Pleistocene glacial deposits, nice cartoon type to show the features. Very interesting. You can see the glacial advance. You can see the moraine and how it hooks over into Staten Island from Long Island. Again, here's a subsurface and a surface glacial soil deposits. Here's another one for the Fuller's map, actually on Brooklyn and Queens, showing you all the unconsolidated soils. There's New York City superficial soil deposits and bedrock. Another interesting map. Is soft ground cohesion with soils. These become problems if you're doing any construction, and especially if you have liquefaction, and especially if there's earthquakes. There's one that you can see small square with New York City, and the pink is actually what liquefies. Here's another one for the same thing, showing liquefaction also in these soft soils. There's a superficial geology map of Staten Island. Earthquakes in the Northeast, as you can see, the largest earthquake that hit near the New York area was off of the Rockaways in the late 1800s. It registered a little more than 6 on the Richter scale. Here's another map showing all the earthquakes in the New York City area. Here are all the fault lines in New York City. The biggest major faults, of course, are in Jersey and the Newark Basin, but these faults may be not active, but they can be a problem during construction. Here's the USDA soil map. I contributed a lot of the data from New York City DDC to USDA. We work together. Here's another cartoon there showing the pattern of soils developed in glacial till, outwash, that man-made soils, which are fill. Is another one showing you the different soil types that are found in the New York City area. And still there's another one where these materials came from. Again, coal and ash, a lot of times you find that buried as fill. Here's a topographic and surface drainage in New York City. Is another terrain analysis of New York City, showing you the highest points. Is another one. High elevation locations are pointed out on this map for each borough. Is a relief map of New York City Harbor. Is a very old map showing topographic relief outcrops and hills in New York City. This is from the WPA maps, their profiles showing the buried topography that you can find in New York City. A lot of the topography is not following the roadways or the streets. We had a job, I remember, Long Island City, where we did borings every 100 feet. And actually the borings missed all the rock outcrops that were shallow below the ground. We were actually in the valleys and not on the ridges. Yeah, again, with surface drainage, you can see how surface drainage affects the topography of the land, either from water, glacial. Is a bathymetric digital elevation model showing you the Hudson, the Raritan, Jamaica Bay. Is a NOAA nautical map giving you the depth of all the channels and rivers in the New York City area, on the coastal areas. Very good when you're doing coastal work. Again, is surface drainage that you can see. The tidal effects. Here's a map showing a sewer map from DEP along Southern Boulevard in the Bronx, showing you the buried topography on Southern Boulevard. You can use a lot of different things to get this information. It's not only regular maps, but you may have to go into drawings and other types of files to get information. Here's the topographic map showing the Hudson River, the East River, and a few other spots in the Manhattan and Bronx area. Here is the Bronx River. Here is a showing the elevation and soil. And here's a soil map for the Bronx River from the USDA. And here's an old historical Bronx River map showing they had ponds and lakes along the Bronx River. A lot of these were filled in and they're missing now. Here's another topographic map with the Bronx River, giving you a lot of information with contour lines. Here's the Harlem River. Oh, excuse me. And you can see a tidal strait. Actually, these are not rivers. The Harlem is really a tidal strait. It's just from the Hudson to the East River. Here's the Harlem River showing you depth to bedrock next to the Harlem River. Here's an old map showing the Harlem River between the Bronx and Manhattan. And you can see all the marshlands on both sides of the river. These maps are very helpful because the streets usually extend right into the marshlands and they're filled in. Doing work, you're going to find organics right near these areas. And they could be a problem during construction. Here is the Harlem River, and you can see a profile of the geology, the soils and what's below it. Actually, the inward marble is way below the Harlem River. Is the bedrock that's below it. There's another one with the Harlem River showing you all the bedrock. Here's the West Bronx streams and ponds and wetlands, early 19th century. A lot of drainage. A lot of drainage doesn't show anymore. It's all urbanized, and where the drainage is, they built culverts and sewers to take that water away. You can't just fill it in. Comparison of historic wetlands and watercourses and ownership. You're looking at heavy area of where these streams are going. Is Van Cortlandt Lake map from the Valley map from 1874. These maps are very helpful to tell you what was there prior to the 20th century now. Is Tibbetts Brook that goes from Westchester into the Bronx. And you can see the drainage again. Is Tibbetts Brook. Actually, on the right is the sewer where Tibbetts Brook actually runs. Here's the East River. Again, the East River is not a river, but it's in red. It's really a channel or tidal strait. Here's the Long Island Sound. And you can see what the sedimentary geology looks like. Actually, New York City is right back here on the left side of the map. Is the distribution of superficial sediments in Long Island Sound. You go in to the left again is New York City. There is one quaternary geologic map of Long Island Sound from the USGS. And this is right within the city between Westchester and the Bronx. Soil and bedrock along the East River. The top is bedrock that actually juts right across the northern side of the East River. Is a geologic bedrock profile of the East River between Queens and Manhattan. This is the Queens Midtown Tunnel. East River is highlighted in blue, another map. And now there's an aerial photograph showing the East River and harbor. But really it's a channel, it's not a river. The geologic map in sections of Manhattan, very good map. It gives you a lot of cross sections and the geology of New York, of Manhattan Island. There's another imagery map of New York City and the Hudson River. There's a Hudson River drainage map from 1906. Going across the shelf, continental shelf. There's a block diagram of the Hudson River geology in color. There's a geological profile from the Pennsylvania Railroad Tunnel that goes across the Hudson. Again, you can see the geology, very detailed. These whole maps have a lot of detail and very good to use for your site investigation or your pre-construction or pre-design for your planning stages. Coordinate geologic map of the Hudson River. It's all labeled. Hudson River map in 1865. Here's the Valley map from 1865. Here's Minetta Brook, which is in Manhattan. And actually, you can see on the right, it's really manholes being lifted. It's actually running through a sewer. So you have to watch out when you do any excavation or any work that you're not going to encounter these sewer pipes that have streams in it. Is the collect pond. On the left is in 1865 for the Valley map. On the right, they were reconstructing DPR. Parks Department was constructing the new pond park in 2012, and they came across a lot of fill material in that area. Again, fill can be a problem when you encounter it. Is a freshwater stream along Maiden Lane in the Valley map. If you're doing any work along Maiden Lane, you didn't realize there was a stream there. Now here's a map of a lot of ponds and everything in Lower Manhattan, including the collect pond, but there were other ponds and swamps and other areas in the lower part that can be encountered while you're doing new construction. Is Stonewich Creek in Queens, near Ravenswood. And as you can see, there's a waterfalls in the lower left-hand picture. And it's running right through a sewer. Here's Casino Creek, 1873 map. Again, you can see the tributaries going into Casino Creek. Here's Flushing River going out into Flushing Bay. A lot of the areas are filled in, so you don't see these rivers before, and you may encounter, again, marsh type of deposits. Is Jamaica Bay drainage map, showing all the drainage that's going into Jamaica Bay from different, from all these different creeks. Paddock Basin, Hendricks Creek, Bergen Basin. You have bays over there. So you have to be careful when you're doing work. Is Bushwick Creek. Again, you can see how the creek is set up, going through the streets. These maps are easier to find today with using the internet. Here's Red Hook, showing the ponds, streams, and inlets in Red Hook from the 1766 map. Here's Staten Island drainage map showing numerous streams across Staten Island. Staten Island had a lot of drainage. You don't see it anymore when you built everything up. But if you're doing any construction in streets, roadways, even new buildings, you may encounter them. Here's the Blue Belt. You can see 16 different watersheds just in the Blue Belt. Is historic tidal wetlands. You see how much wetlands there were in the early times. You see how it's in Staten Island, the same thing, a lot of wetlands. And here's a comparison of the wetlands from 1870 to now. Decreased, filled in. So Here's the New York City tidal wetlands aerial map of Staten Island. Here's significant habitat complexes in the New York area. Expanding floodplain impact on subsurface utilities in New York City. Have to be very careful when you're putting in utilities or infrastructure. You can see the problems that we have on change orders and all in these projects. New York City map showing landfill and showing the difference, how it increased from 1954 to this is 1995, I believe. Map of, well, landfills again. The only landfill still active is Fresh Kills. But most of the garbage in New York City is being transferred out through the transfer stations throughout the city. Flood risks in New York City. You have to be very careful. Sea level seems to be rising all over. This is from the Army Corps of Engineers. Future risks was sea level. As you can see, everything's going the other direction. 300-year flood, 500-year flood. What the difference is the 100-year flood and the risk. Global warming is doing a lot probably to New York City and other cities throughout the world with sea level rise. New York City sea level rise by the year 2100, they have +6 feet. Here's a map, actually an aerial showing 2020 to 2021, with the difference in sea level. A lot of New York, a lot of Brooklyn, a lot of Queens, a lot of areas, even Staten Island will be underwater. Here's sea level rise in the future. As you can see, Statue of Liberty. Statue of Liberty won't be underwater, but everything else will around it, the island, Liberty Island. Rise of 8 feet, and this is what Manhattan will look like. Wood farms along the shoreline. It shows you where the shoreline used to be. And now we were expanding seaward. Here's lower Manhattan showing how the area has been expanding from the 1600s up until now. And actually, with sea level rise, it will reclaim the old shorelines. In the World Trade Site, they found a buried ship, an old ship, as they were excavating for the new buildings. New York City groundwater map from 1906, a very old one, showing the soil deposits. Is a potential metric surface of the upper glacial aquifer in Brooklyn and Queens. Is another map, the same thing. This is from 1997 from USGS. You can find depth of groundwater on the USGS site. The 2013 maps actually are for New York City. You can zoom in and you can find the depth of any groundwater throughout New York City. If you're doing a site, you can actually record all the depth of groundwater around that site and even know the direction of flow for groundwater. A good tool to use on any investigation. of any project site you're working on. Here is the old Jamaica Water Supply Company. It was the only groundwater left in New York up until 2007. Brooklyn used to have flatbush pumping, which stopped. But actually, a lot of groundwater in Brooklyn and Queens was depressed by more than 30 feet due to the pumping of groundwater back in the early 1900s. Here's a groundwater cross-section index map of Brooklyn and Queens. And we'll take a look at what it looks like. Here's a soil profile for Brooklyn. There's a soil profile for Queens. The Cretaceous soil of this is Jamaica aquifer. You can find this map online. Gardeners clay is right below it. Magathy is below that, which is very thick. And you have the Raritan Formation. And then below that is the Lloyd Aquifer. Well, maybe it went too fast. Go back up again. Okay. This is Lower Manhattan, Upper Glacial. As you can see, contour lines from the water table. So actually, if you go into rock, you may even have below this, you may have, if you have enough fractures and all in the rock, you can have a water table, not a water table, but you can have secondary porosity in the rock itself. Here's Staten Island. Is a map of the groundwater in Staten Island. The divide goes right almost through the center of Staten Island, groundwater divide. It's in red on that map. Permeability in New York City bedrock depends on weathering, solubility, and interconnected fractures. In wood, soft rock, calcium carbonate. It could have large fractures from solubility and carry water. I know the Botanical Gardens has a well that was pumping more than 60 gallons a minute. But in other areas, you may not get too much water out of it. But if we do geothermal, which I have done for the city, you can get standing columns to get water out. New York City boring data. I'm giving you a list of all the boring data resources for all of New York City, each agency that has boring data. And as you can see, almost every agency has boring data someplace. So just going through it, you can see TBTA, Corps of Engineers, soil maps. Everybody has data. It's not easy to get all the time from these, but you may be able to foil it and get that data. Con Edison and National Grid and Empire Subway, they all have data. And as well as the drilling contractors, and the geotechnical consultants. There's also a lot of data you can get from colleges and universities. A lot of borings from DASNY, which is from the city, CUNY, you can get, they have data. And in the private sector, Cornell, Columbia, Hofstra, there may be data for that also. Geological associations may have publications, field guides, and papers that you can use for boring data. Engineering associations like ASCE can have data. Archaeological, you won't believe it, but they have a lot of data, and they took a lot of borings when they do archaeological sites in the city. And museums, they have a lot of publications and articles you can use for your site investigation. Libraries also. And you can get digital data from the libraries. Internet sources like Google and Bing, a lot of information. But maps you can also use for the data, and you'll need that on any site you go to. There's Sanborn maps, but the newest ones cost a lot of money if your facility has it, because to get it, and it's good to have it online if you have that data. It's in your cut and paste. Tax maps you can find in New York City. WPA, well, the DDC has it, has a copy. UC Rutledge has a copy of the WPA rock line. And there are probably other people that have that. WPA utility maps show you what's in Manhattan buried, which is very important. So a lot of those pipes, you're not going to get information or records for them. DDC Trolley Track Investigation book, which I authored, that gives you all the information on subsurface interference from buried transportation systems. It's about maybe 250 pages, but I have it in PDF format. Water main distribution maps online, but either you have an account with DEP to get those. It's not easy to do it, and you have to be trained to do it. Final section maps, the borough president's office has those maps. You can find a lot of information in the borough president's office throughout the city. ArcGIS mapping tool that DDC uses is important to for our geothermal systems. Angstrom street maps are very handy to give you zip code, neighborhood name, and the north arrow. Legal street status is important for the borough president's office, because you want to know when the street was opened up. If it's a landmark, you may have to do something. You may have to bring it back to the same status as before. New York City do-it maps are online, very easy to use. You can make your site and baseline from the do-it map. And you can add and you can edit those maps also. DCP GOAT address verification block and lot tool. Very important to verify an address online, because actually sometimes the addresses are incorrect on other files. They don't have the true address. FDNY, fire alarm subsurface lines. Fire department has the maps. Con Ed, Edison steam line maps. Just Manhattan, very important if you're doing work. You don't want to hit any lines. Buckeye pipeline maps, well, that's priority. They're not going to give it to you. It's very hard to get it, but city agencies can get access to them. Pierhead and bulkhead water department maps. Very good to have. Gives you information that you would never get if you're doing along the coastline of the city. Long Island Railroad line maps also. Live water maps, which are called DDMs. from DEP. You have to have an account with them to get it. And training. Well, sewer maps, the same thing. DDC had that account, has that account, and they actually researched that. NOAA, New York City Harbor and River maps. You can go to their website and pick it up. Any of the maps are free. Long Island pipeline maps, Brooklyn and Queens, Staten Island. Subsurface utility documents, as-built, field cards, tap cards, and sewer records. DEP. Well, it's very hard with utilities today because of Homeland Security. So I don't think you'll be able to get those unless you, for city agencies, they use it. New York Public Library, Old New York City mapping historical photographs. They have a map of the host city, and you can pick up any point almost in the city and get a photograph of what was there maybe 50, 60 years ago. But as I said, a lot of resources are for New York City DDC only in-house. And to summarize, historical geological data and maps, historical hydrogeology data and maps, historical topographical and survey data and maps, historical environmental data and maps, historical photographs covering project areas, historical geological and geotechnical reports, subsurface interference conditions. All of the above information collected can be compiled into a geological database. It shows you how much information you can use to be used in planning, design, and construction throughout New York City. And here's an acknowledgement of a lot of people that I work with. And thank you. And now you can ask your questions.
Right, if anybody wants to ask questions, please feel free to unmute yourself, or you can type in the chat box and I'll read it out loud for Dennis.
Hey, Dennis.
Yes,
Hey, Brian Duggan. How you doing?
okay.
I just had a question about the subsurface maps that you had of some of the streams and all that. Where
Right.
would you be able to get those maps? You've compiled those. Where do you get them?
You go get it online. Actually, if you go to Google and you use Google for your search engine, you put in the name of the stream that you're looking for. You can also get the book Hidden Streams, I think. I forgot the book. It's it gives you all the streams of New York City. I actually have it in PDF, the book. So a lot of people have that book. If you need it in PDF, I'll tell you where to get it. If you send me a text or something, I can text you back where you can get the book. Or I can
That's great,
email
thank
you
you.
the book if you want it. It's only one of the books, but there's a lot of other things out there that you can find.
Hey, Dennis, it's Chris Wenzel. In your talk, you mentioned a tsunami event that resulted in a lithologic layer
Right,
solidified in the Cretaceous. Is it Cretaceous
right,
deposits?
it's Cretaceous.
Are there a few keywords you could give me so that I can I'd like to look up a few papers that may or may not have been written about that event. I'm curious as to the timing of it.
Well, actually, one of my specimens I donated to the Museum of Natural History.
Uh-huh.
Paul Melling at the Museum of Natural History has that specimen. I have a few more specimens that I collected from the shaft site back in the 90s, early 90s. So I didn't hear of anything. I know there was a few other shaft sites. I don't think they came across it. They had the big problem of doing a freeze wall at that shaft in between Sigel and White Street in Brooklyn.
Uh-huh.
And what happened was when they tried the freeze wall, the pipes hit the that rock layer and veered off about 300 feet from the shaft. And the whole shaft got flooded because of that. So
Wow.
That's why people don't read reports. A lot of times no one reads anything. Very interesting situation. But I believe there are deposits found along the whole Atlantic coast of Cretaceous sediment. The layer may not be that thick because the water drained maybe to a 10-foot layer. It may be a little thicker some places else, and maybe a little thinner other areas, depending on how it went across the coastline. I would think it went pretty far up the coastline, but I don't know. And probably even Africa too. They show the same deposits also. It would be a good paper that someone could find out and work on. But I think the only way you're going to find out, since it was 125 feet down, it's deep borings for someone who has the money to do it.
Right. But I mean, the tsunami event, do you have any idea when that was? And was that related to something that happened in the Canary Islands possibly? Or no? You don't know?
No, I don't think so. This is actually, above it is unconsolidated sands and clays, and below it is unconsolidated sands and clays. It's in between all of that, which is amazing. Rock is pretty deep over there, except for that sandstone, siltstone layer. Very, very interesting.
Okay, thank you.
But DEP has those records, I believe, for that shaft.
Okay, we had a question regarding getting a copy of your abstract or your presentation. Dennis, you say you were going to email a copy of your presentation to Chris so we can post it on the website?
He has the abstract.
Okay.
Oh, no,
Right.
but the whole presentation will be given to Chris anyway.
Okay, great. Yeah, so
I have it in PDF as well as in the PowerPoint. So
okay, yeah, I think send over whatever you're comfortable with, and
no, I'll give him both. The one he probably wants to put online is easier with a PDF. I think it's a smaller
probably,
file.
yeah. So yeah, we'll upload that and the video to the website. Does
Okay.
anybody else have any questions?
Going once? Going twice? Sold. Hey, Dennis, thank you so much for doing this. That was a great talk. And,
I'm happy that you liked it.
you know, we really appreciate it. And I have to say, I'll sum it up this way. I don't think I've ever met anybody who knows more about the resources in New York or the information that's available and, you know, what you've gathered over the course of your career. So, you know,
Now, 30 years, I was in every office in the city almost, and I know where they filed everything, so.
You're an awesome resource. Thank you so much.
Hey, Dennis, I just wanted to put my 2 cents in. Dennis, my name is Tom Dwyer. I work out at Plum Island. I don't know if you know where that is.
Right,
That's off the east end of the North Fork of Long Island.
right.
And I'm the guy everyone turns to for information about the geology of about the North Fork and especially Plum
That's
Island.
online. You can find
yeah.
that stuff online very easy.
And I wanted to say, you're probably the guy everyone turns to that's looking for information about the geology of New York City. So I really appreciate that you took the time out to speak
Well,
to
I
our
like to
group.
share all the information that I have.
Oh, we really
You know,
appreciate it.
It's for the future people. It's
That's
on,
important.
this presentation is like a training presentation to train you in doing a better job if you're doing any site investigation. And
Yeah,
a lot of people don't know how to put things together and compile everything.
It's well
I've been doing this
received.
for years, compiling it.
It's well received, and we really appreciate that you took the time. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Sorry, Chris, take it away.
Oh, no worries, no worries. All right, well, if there's no other questions, then I think we thank Dennis, and I think we'll move on to Joanne's got some trivia she'd like to do with us.
I'll listen in.
Okay,
So how do I take this thing off the,
You don't have to. Joanne's gonna start to share, and yours is gonna you'll
disappear?
get the boot.
Okay, good.
okay, so I just hit the launch button, right, Chris? This is a little different than last time. So
Yes.
hopefully this works. Okay, so whoops. I'm
It's
sorry.
sharing.
Okay, okay, can everybody see that?
Right.
Yes.
We can.
Okay, so question 1. Fine parallel lines or striations are most likely to be seen on a cleavage surface of which of the following minerals? A, quartz, B, orthoclase, C, hornblende, or D, plagioclase?
My wife.
And
Ooh, that's bad.
let me see, are you able to vote?
Not yet. We actually have, it looks like, all the questions on the screen. So I think we're going to have to answer all 10 questions and then submit.
That's right.
Oh, okay. So what, you just, oh, this is different. So we'll be able to see, will we be able to see each other's choices as we go? It's kind of strange.
I don't think
think
we're going to see it until the end.
I
Chris?
think we'll see that as the end. So just work through the questions, let people answer, and then at the end, we can share the results.
Okay, because are people answering that first one right now? Because right now, all I see are zeros. That
Yeah,
nobody
we're answering
has
them.
answered.
You're
Oh, you
just-
are?
Yeah,
Okay.
you're not going to see it until the end, though.
Okay, okay, thank you. Okay, so I'll keep going. Question 2. Which of the following minerals is not a silicate? A, orthoclase, B, muscovite, C, augite, or D, magnetite? And question 3. Which of these pairs of minerals are always found in granites? Muscovite and calcite, quartz and orthoclase, hornblende and talc, or augite and magnetite?
How do you mark it?
Dennis, you hit the little round button next to the choice that you want. And then after you've answered all 10 questions at the end, you'll hit the submit button on the bottom right.
Where's the round button? I don't see no round button.
You don't see round buttons next to each question. Do you see the questions?
Yeah, I see the questions.
Okay,
Oh,
just to the left of the answer you want to select, if you hit your mouse there, it should select it.
You know what, Jennifer? I don't see those circles either. I think it may be if you're down as a presenter, you may not be able to see those, you may not be able to
You're right. You're
see
right.
those circles.
Oh.
Yep.
There,
Yeah.
Dennis, I took your co-host away, so you should be able to see it now.
Okay,
Okay. That's why.
okay, okay. Okay, so question 4. An example of a rock whose minerals have been crushed into thin sheets or bands is shale, schist, conglomerate, or granite. And 5, the hydrolysis of orthoclase results in the formation of shale, kaolin, lime, or hydrochloric acid. Okay, question 6. An open ocean community is called a pelagic community, benthic community, lentic community, or lotic community. Question 7, and whoops. Whoop, we have a duplicate there. Okay, question
This is
8.
awful. I'm going to get it wrong both times.
I think question 8 was actually question 6 is an open ocean community. Question 7 should be a lake or pond community. So choose your answer based on lake or pond for question 7. Okay. Question 8. In which of these states can large numbers of drumlins be found? Oregon, California, Texas, or Wisconsin? Question 9. Deposits that form when the ice in a glacier melts are called drifts, dunes, veins, or cirques. And question 10. Certain substances are classified as water pollutants, others are air pollutants, and still others land pollutants. Which of the following pollutes all 3 parts of our environment? Fluorocarbons, smog, acid rain, or ozone?
All right, once everybody's answered all 10 questions, they should have the submit button should turn to a blue button, and they should be able to submit it. Joanne, just so you know, when I hit submit, my poll screen went away, but I'm assuming eventually you or Chris should see the results.
Okay, yes, I am seeing the numbers tick up here. So I guess we have 18 people participating. And when I get close to that in these results, I'll end it. Just everybody wants a few more seconds. Is everybody ready?
Not yet.
Okay.
Joanne, I'm really sorry
Okay.
about messing up question 7.
Oh, no problem. That's okay.
Should have said
They
pond.
looked like the same question, you know.
Well, it was the same answers to choose from, but it was pond
Yeah.
community.
Yeah, that was it was only 2 words difference. So no worries. So
Goofy geologists.
Well, while
Okay,
we're waiting
so-
to publish the results, just Dennis, you had a couple of people
I just
that,
wanna finish up. I
put-
didn't finish.
you're still finishing, Dennis?
Yeah,
Okay.
Okay, we have results now from 20 people.
what's that one?
Are you ready, Dennis? You got yours in?
Yeah, 1 second.
Okay.
Oh, 1 second, it should be here. All right,
Okay, everybody ready?
ready.
Okay, here we go. We'll end that, and then we'll go through the answers. Okay, so for question 1, most people got it correct. The answer is the fine parallel lines or striations are most likely to be seen on the cleavage surface of which of the following minerals? The answer is D, plagioclase. Very
Joanne, is there a
good.
way that you can publish the results so that we can see it as well? There
Yep,
we go.
I
Yep.
should have hit that button. Thank you, Jen.
No problem.
Goofy geologist.
Yeah. Okay. Question 2, which of the following minerals is not a silicate? And the answer is D, magnetite. So 76% got that one right too. Very good. Okay. Number 3, which of these pairs of minerals are always found in granite? The answer is B, quartz and orthoclase. So 81% got that one. Very good. Okay. Question 4, an example of a rock whose minerals have been crushed into thin sheets or bands is, and that is B, schist. So 57% got that one right too. Very good. Okay. Question 5, the hydrolysis of orthoclase results in the formation of, and that is correct, B, kaolin. So 76% got that right. Very good. Doing good tonight. Okay, so this question is, like Chris said, it is like, it looks the same as the bottom one, but this one is the open ocean community. And that is the pelagic community. Question, letter A. So that's correct. 62% got that right. Very good. And this one should be a lake or pond community. So that's the correct answer is C, lentic. So most people got that right also, 48%. Very good. Question 8, in which of these states can large numbers of drumlins be found? And that is Wisconsin, D. So 76% got that right. Very good. And let's see. Question 9, deposits that form when the ice in a glacier melts are called, and the answer is A, drifts. So most people got that right too. 48%. And the last question, certain substances that are water, air, and land pollutants. The correct answer is C, acid rain. It pollutes pretty much everything. And 62% got that right. So we did really good tonight, guys. Everybody did really well. Got, most people got, we had the highest percent of the right answers on all of them. So good job, everybody.
Hey, Joanne, what about the bonus question?
We do have a bonus question, but it hasn't shown up. I'm thinking when I hit stop sharing, maybe the next one will show up.
All right.
I don't see it, Chris.
What?
I don't see it. I hit. I
How
have,
many people are registered for the presentation?
We had about, I would say, with all the waitlist people, we had about 105 that were registered.
Oh.
So
that's a
Dennis,
good
you
number.
might be close to a record for us.
You are a celebrity. You don't even
Well,
know it, do you?
The last one I did was school construction. That was 116. So that was in-house, actually a regular presentation.
Joanne, at the top
Yeah.
of your poll page there, there's a
yeah,
poll, it says geologic trivia 9/23/21.
yeah.
There's a drop down menu. Go to the next question.
Oh, I see that. Now I see it. Thank you. Now that
Yay.
you pointed it out.
I didn't know
Thank
either.
you.
What the hell?
Okay, so here's the bonus question. Who is widely considered the father of modern geology? So A, is it Charles Lyell? He was a lawyer and geologist and author of the Principles of Geology. B, James Hutton, who was a Scottish farmer who developed the idea of uniformitarianism. Is it C, Charles Darwin, who was the author of several geology books? Was it D, Pliny the Elder? He wrote about Roman mining techniques and mineralogy. And actually he died in the Mount Vesuvius eruption.
Bummer.
Right? Was it E, William Smith, who was the originator of the geologic map? Or was it F, Alfred Wegener, who was a German meteorologist and geophysicist, I can't speak tonight, I apologize, and geophysicist who originated the theory of continental drift? So I think we have 26 people still on. So if everybody participates, as soon as I get to
Oh, let me
26,
submit it.
I'll give you the answers.
And while we're waiting for people to submit, we've had a few more messages dropped into the chat box, all praise for Dennis and this presentation. Let's see. Liam said, thank you, great presentation. Kelly said, thank you for the presentation, such a great resource. Thank you for putting this all in one place. And I definitely have to echo that. Having it all together in one place is great. Brian said, thank you, great presentation. Dorothy said, thank you. Mike McCarron said, Dennis, thank you very much for your very informative presentation. Fatumata said, thank you very much, Dennis, for the presentation. Very resourceful. Thank you. And Nitin said, thank you, Dennis, for the great presentation. So yeah, like
Thank you.
Chris said, you're a rock star.
I'll come up with a new presentation. I'm working on another paper. So we'll see what I can do.
Yeah, it is fascinating to see all those really old maps. So interesting.
People don't realize what's online. It's so much, but how to put it together, how you can visualize it and follow something. Don't forget, I write my abstract actually first before I even do my presentation. So I use it as an outline. Most people do it the opposite way. They write a paper and then they put an abstract from the paper.
We had one more question from Fatu. Is there a way to work in person with Dennis?
I'm available. I'm retired, so I'm available.
Dennis, I think you have your
That's
contact
great.
information is in your presentation. So when we
Right,
upload
I
it,
gave you my email and I gave you my phone number. So you can
Great.
call anytime. I'm actually working with School Construction Authority. I help them out with some of their schools. Pro bono, actually, but it keeps me busy.
Okay, so does anybody else
Right.
want to
Oh,
vote?
that's awesome. I work a lot, for like 20. Yeah.
Okay, is everybody ready for the results? Okay, so the answer is B, James Hutton. And most people, the highest amount got it right, 40%. Very good. Okay. So everybody did good tonight.
Awesome. Well, thank you, Joanne. Thank you, Dennis.
You're welcome.
You're welcome.
Unless anybody wants to engage in some geologic chatter, that concludes our presentation and event for tonight. So thanks all for coming out and showing up. A great showing. And I wish everyone well, and hopefully we'll see you next month when we have a presentation of some sort.
Thank you so much. Have a good night.
All
Thank
right.
you, Chris.
Take care.
Thank you, Dennis.
Live
You're
long and
welcome.
prosper.
Okay, good night, everybody.